It's that time of year again. In St. Louis, the Cards file a joint return and hope for windfall profits yet again. The long form is in vogue in Los Angeles, where the Dodgers minimize their losses by writing off the Giants. In New York, the Yankees prefer the short form, and the bottom line points to early dividends. But the biggest return of all comes in Kansas City, where a 3-year investment finally pays off. So avoid the penalty and don't miss the deadline. It's in your best interest to take stock in the Pennant Chase. And welcome once again to the Pennant Chase. The baseball season is a week old now, and the Cardinals are sitting in a familiar pose near the top of the National League East. But skeptics question whether St. Louis can repeat as pennant winners. So far, though, the Cards appear to have things well in hand. The National League pennant-winning Cardinals looked fit and chipper when Montreal came to town. Like the Redbirds of '85, they were well in stride. In Game 1, Vince Coleman was back on the run, stealing 3 bases, while last year's MVP, Willie McGee, made his first hit count very big. McGee's homer gave the Cards their first extra base hit of the season, but that opened the floodgates, and out poured Jack Clark, who rocked the park with a blast of his own. Next up, Tito Landrum, who made it back-to-back. In all, 3 homers in the inning. Ah, yes, when sorrows come, they come not as single spies, but in battalions. Bob Forsch added to Expo woes, giving up 1 run in 8 innings as the Cards raised their record to 3-0. Next day, the Expos fell victim to the Tudor curse. John Tudor went 6+ innings for his 18th straight victory at home and win number 22 in his last 23. But that wasn't all. Tudor also starred at the plate. First, he hit lefty and keyed a 3-run fourth. Then he switched to the right side and drove home another run in the 5th, boosting the Cards' lead to 5-0 and putting things in tip-top shape in the house of Tudor. In Game 3, Montreal's Dan Billardello took over behind the plate and held a tight rein on Cardinal roadrunner Willie McGee in the very first inning. Bryn Smith, meanwhile, put the reins on St. Louis batters, giving up 1 run in 6 innings to even his record at 1-1. Cardinal bats also fell flat against Jeff Reardon, who picked up his first save of the season. Montreal won the game 3-2, putting the skids on the Redbirds' 4-game win streak. Welcome now to the Philly Follies, starring the New York Mets. Opening night in Philadelphia brought back former Philly slugger Greg Luzinski to the vet, but the fun was spoiled in the first inning when Gary Carter poked one out of his favorite park.
This ball well hit, left center, way back. This ball is out of here. Mets lead 2-0.
Then the Follies began, but Bob Ojeda came on in the 5th and brought order to the chaos, beating the Phils 9-7 for his first win as a Met. Next night featured more wackiness, including 36 hits and 21 walks, plus a dwindling 7-4 Met lead in the 9th with Steve Jeltz up and 2 on.
Here's the pitch. Swing and a drive into right center. It's a gapper going all the way back to the fence. Wilson scores. Hayes will score. Jeltz heading for third. He's there with a triple. And it's a 7-6 game in the 9th inning.
Philly fans wanted more, and so did Gary Maddox, who pinch hit next.
Here's the stretch. A 2-strike pitch. Fastball nubbed up the middle. Base hit center field. Jeltz scores, and this game is tied at 7.
But the Phils weren't through, and neither was Steve Jeltz 5 innings later.
Swing and a smash, base hit center field, game's over. Phillies win it by a score of 9-8 on an RBI single by Steve Jeltz.
There was no disguising the Mets' sinking fortunes again next game, especially when Darren Daulton added to them in the 4th.
Swing and a long drive, deep left field. Watch that baby way out of here.
Shane Raleigh kept the Mets way off course, going the distance for a 4-2 win as the Phillies took 2 of 3 to give the Mets a real shake-up. Next up, a nip-and-tuck affair that put the Giants on top of the heap. In Game 1, L.A. tried to dodge San Francisco's offensive barrage, but Jeff Leonard attacked with a blow that was good for 3 runs. With the Giants ahead 8-1 in the 7th, Pedro Guerrero had a word with his sub, Franklin Stubbs, who promptly put L.A. on the comeback trail with a 3-run blast. L.A. went on to tie the score in the last of the 9th. Then with 2 outs in the 12th, Brad Golden came up with a chance to untie it. Golden's RBI single sent the Giants to a 9-8 victory. In Game 2, still more dark clouds loomed over Dodger Stadium as Giant footsteps continued to haunt Tommy Lasorda and his Blue Crew. With the score tied in the 11th, Jeff Leonard knocked the daylights out of L.A. to put the Giants ahead 7-6. Greg Minton then slammed the door ever more as San Francisco beat the Dodgers in extra frames for the 2nd straight game. But next day, the Giants ran into a bit of daring do by the Dodger defense.
And the first pitch is lifted to left center field. Landreau on the dead run, and this is against the wall. Davis thought it might be caught, hesitates, now coming to the plate. The throw to Socha. He is out. What a tag by Socha.
Socha wasn't the only Dodger putting the hurt on the Giants. In the 7th, with the score tied, Franklin Stubbs struck again, his 3rd home run in 3 games. Pointing out yet another Dodger strong point to the Giants, right-hander Oral Hershiser beat San Francisco 3-2 as L.A. turned a calmer shade of blue. Now let's turn to our Player of the Week in the National League. Pirates second baseman Johnny Ray has been on a hitting spree. Helping Pittsburgh take 2 of 3 from the Cubs, Ray went 7 for 13 while driving in 7 runs, including his first homer of the season. Overall, a .529 average, 8 RBIs in his first 4 games, and a ray of hope for the Pirates. Business, pitching especially. All too often the culprit is a tear of the rotator cuff, the part of the shoulder which accepts constant abuse from pitching. Now for victims, it's usually the kiss of death. Few have managed to come back. Wayne Garland, Don Gullett, Mark Fidrich are prime examples. Although pitchers may be the most likely candidates for injury, others have fallen victim as well. And for every ball player, it's often a long and agonizing road back. This year, 2 veterans are fighting all odds to make valiant comebacks. Now this week's cover story featuring a couple of comebacks. Shortstop Rick Burleson made his Major League debut with the Red Sox in 1974 and soon after established himself as the man with the golden arm. Backed by his standout play, the Sox won the pennant in 1975 and went on to the World Series, thanks in part to Burleson's .444 average in the playoffs. But 5 years later, Burleson was traded to California.
I was coming off 2 MVPs with the Red Sox, voted by baseball writers, and I came over here and signed a very lucrative contract, was able to come home to play in front of families and friends, and I had a good year. Consequently, that was the strike season, and they split 2 halves, and the Angels did not fare that well, but 82 was really looking up prior to my injury, and then, of course, we all know now that it's just been a battle the last 4 years.
The battle began on this play in April 1982 when Burleson suffered a torn rotator cuff. The road back has been marked by disappointments, but Burleson refuses to quit.
I have to prove to the Angels I can play. I have to prove to myself I can play, and not just on a 3 to 4 day a week type situation. I want to be able to go every day, and I have to have the opportunity to show them and myself that I can go about that.
So far in 1986, Burleson has showed his powers of rehabilitation, hitting over 300 in his first 6 games. The man called Rooster just may rule the roost in California once again. Dennis Leonard of the Kansas City Royals is also on the road to recovery. Battling back for more than 2 years after a devastating knee injury, the 3-time 20-game winner is confident he can make it back.
If any player came back and didn't think they could do it, they shouldn't come back anyway. So I feel confident I can. You know, I need some work. I haven't pitched against big league hitters in a long time. The minor leagues are pretty easy, but I can't judge my performances pitching against 18 and 19-year-old kids. If I can't trick them or get them out, I'm in trouble. But as long as my leg feels fine, which it has, and my arm feels fine, I think with a little bit of work, I'll be able to do it.
After missing all of the '84 season, Leonard returned briefly last September in relief.
Dennis Leonard's coming in from the bullpen, and this place goes wild.
It was really exciting for me that first outing. You know, the fans in Kansas City gave me a tremendous ovation, and it made everything that I've done as far as the rehab, going through the operations, feel like it was well worth it. And it's also given me an opportunity to feel that maybe I'll pitch in the big leagues again.
So how's this for the makings of a Hollywood comeback story? Last week, Leonard made his first start in nearly 3 years. He shut out the Toronto Blue Jays on 3 hits to win his first game since May 23rd, 1983. Final tally, 1-0. It may be premature, but for Dennis Leonard, this season could be a comeback complete. Now for a time to look back with This Week in Baseball History. 35 years ago this week, Mickey Mantle made his big league debut in the hallowed chambers of Yankee Stadium.
First time I come out in the stadium, there were 68,000 people here. I think the Yankees was playing the Red Sox. It was the biggest crowd I'd ever seen in my life. I think there's 2,000 people live in Commerce, and then the biggest crowd we'd ever had would be 400 or 500 people, you know. It was pretty scary, to tell you the truth.
Also 33 years ago this week, the Commerce Comet cleared Washington's Griffith Stadium with the longest measured home run.
Every time I come up, I was trying for a home run. I love to see it go a long way. I hit one 565. I'm thinking I'm going to hit one 600 feet today.
Measure for measure, Mickey had no equal. Now let's feature a trio of celebrated names of the past who are back in uniform. Former Red Sox Jimmy Pearsall may be best known for his famous antics, but in 17 seasons he compiled the 5th best fielding percentage among outfielders ever, a fact not lost on the Chicago Cubs, who hired Pearsall as outfield coach this spring.
Even though you're not sure how hard it is, when you make this turn here, you run as hard as you can. Now look up, but you got to practice that. Certainly, if they didn't take advantage of my knowledge, of what I've learned throughout the years, when I had a 997 lifetime fielding average, they'd be kidding themselves. And I'm not looking for them to completely change themselves around. We're looking to help one guy a certain way or another guy another way. And I've even got them coming to me because they know what they can't do. Let's see if we can improve on it with certain drills I have or mental attitude towards the play.
The guy really is a tremendous help, especially to me, and he really knows how to talk with you. It's not an easy way that he goes about his job. He works extremely hard, and this is the way that you're able to go out and get the most out of your ability. And by practicing the way that you do out there in the field, you seem to really carry that out in the game, and I'm looking forward to strengthening my game out there in the outfield.
For Billy Williams, being with Chicago is just like old times. A Cubs standout for 16 years, he's hoping to pass along his sweet swing to the Cubs of today.
Number one, in instructing, you've got to have credibility, and Billy Williams, of course, brings great credibility because of his career as a hitter.
Stay on your toe, and you won't come back. You don't want to come back on your heels like that, so you come off the ball. You want to stay on top of the ball here, right through the ball, like on your heel. And don't you go toe, heel, spin. Toe, heel, spin.
And also his manner in talking to ball players. I think they respect him and get along with him. They like him personally.
San Francisco took Willie McCovey to heart in 1959 when he came up. Now back with his old team, the Hall of Fame slugger finds today's hitters a different breed.
They haven't hit nearly as much as we used to hit in the past. And I can remember the giant teams we would have. We would just hit until we got blisters in spring training. I mean, if anything, we got too much hitting. I guess a little bit more emphasis was put on fundamentals over the last few years. And fundamentals are good, and that's usually what wins ball games. But we've kind of turned that around a little bit this spring because the guys are getting a lot more hitting, and they seem to be enjoying it a lot more.
Indeed, sage advice from three of baseball's wise men just may help their disciples find fortune on the diamond. Now time to find out what's going on around the diamond. Kansas City Royal Highness George Brett hit 2 home runs in one game against the Yankees, giving him 195 career homers, most by a Royal ever. Teammate Lonnie Smith took a bad fall while making this catch against Toronto, putting him out of action with a sprained ankle. Red Sox reliever Joe Sampito is on the comeback trail from an arm injury, and in a recent game against Detroit, picked up his first save since 1982. New Dodgers Cesar Cedeno went right to work filling the offensive vacuum left by Pedro Guerrero. He had hits in his first 2 at-bats. The Padres and Dodgers began the season with a record 7 one-run games. Then L.A. went to San Diego and lost 4-3 in the opener. That made it 8 straight one-run games, including 5 against each other. Yogi Berra wants to remember it, but it was about this time last year that he was about to be fired as Yankee manager. In fact, 16 games into the season, Yankee owner George Steinbrenner made his 12th managerial change in as many years. Now, in case you've forgotten, Yogi's replacement was none other than Billy Martin, who came back for his 4th term as Yankee skipper. Now Martin's long gone, and Lou Piniella has the job. And with the Yankees off to a winning start, it looks as if he might be around for at least another week. With 5 wins in their first 6 games, the Yankees are off to a sweet start, much to the dismay of the visiting Brewers, who found no sweetheart in rookie Bob Tewksbury. In his Major League debut, Tukes buried Milwaukee for 7+ innings to pick up his first win. Sparking the Yankee offense, Mike Pagliarulo threw a hitch into Brewer plans on a 3-0 pitch.
Get the air deep, way back, and it is gone, way out of here. He had the green light on a 3-0 pitch.
And putting the red light on Milwaukee, lefty reliever Rod Scurry came on in the 8th and set down 5 straight Brewers to close out a 3-2 victory, picking up his first save of the season. In Game 2, the Yankees celebrated skipper Lou Piniella's anniversary by throwing a bash. Dave Winfield did the honors in the 5th inning with his first homer. But the biggest swinger at the park, Reininger, who delivered his second 3-run homer of the year. The Yankees raised their record to 4-1 for the team's best start in 10 years. In the finale, the Yankees turned to their ace for a sweep of the series. Ron Guidry complied by picking up his second win, his home record to 15-2 since last season. Also right on target was last year's MVP. Don Mattingly overturned an early Milwaukee lead when he went all the way to the wall. A long way for a single, but the result was 2 runs as the Yankees won 3-1. Dave Righetti picked up his second save of the series as the Yankees swept Milwaukee and closed out their homestand with a dandy 5-1 record. Next up, the upstart Texas Rangers, who branded the Birds by taking 2 of 3. But in Game 1, the Orioles bit into Texas pitching early. Skipper Bobby Valentine was heartened, though, when rookie Pete Incaviglia snapped out of his slump to take a huge bite out of Baltimore pitching in the 8th inning. For Incaviglia, his first Major League home run, and for Texas, 1 run down going into the last of the 9th. With Baltimore's Don Asse on in relief, the Rangers had 2 outs and runners on first and second. What then? A pickoff attempt that went awry. 1 run in, the ball knocked loose, and another run followed as Texas scored twice on Oriole mishaps and won the game 5-4. A rousing finish for the rough and ready Rangers, who rode herd on the Birds next game. In that next game, the O's were given a bitter taste of Texas relief. Newcomer Greg Harris threw 2 2/3 innings of no-hit ball as the Rangers squeezed by Baltimore 2-1 for their second straight win. But in the finale, Texas fireworks fizzled out as Baltimore pitching wiped out Ranger spirits. Scott McGregor had Oriole pitching looking like the O's of old as he went 7 2/3 for his first win of the year. Texas, though, was in picture-perfect form with a 2-1 lead when Cal Ripken came up in the 8th and 2 on. A 2-run single and a 3-2 win as the Birds prevented Texas from sweeping Baltimore at home for the first time in 7 years. Next up, the California Angels put on a shower of power at the Oakland Coliseum. Oakland was grooving to the beat of a new season when suddenly the bad news hit. The Angels' Reggie Jackson was in town and swinging a hot bat in the opener. Reggie smacked his second homer of the season, a number 532 of his career. But California's long ball bash became a real smash in the 9th when Brian Downing came up with the bases loaded.
Well hit to left. See you later. A grand slam for Brian Downing. Downing took an off-speed pitch and teed off on it and drove it out of here.
The A's waved goodbye to a 10-3 loss and then next day waved hello to new starter Joaquin Andujar, whose reunion with home plate umpire Don Denkinger may have called up World Series memories. But Andujar couldn't call off the waves of Angel offense, brought on by Reggie Jackson once again. Reggie smashed his 533rd career homer, putting him 1 shy of Jimmy Fox on the all-time list and putting Andujar out of work for the rest of the day. But in Game 3, Oakland proposed quite a different turn of events when rookie Jose Canseco swung into action in the 5th inning.
Whoa! See you later. This one way back and out of here for Jose Canseco.
A 3-run homer for the rookie, who then added some bubbles in the 6th when he got an offer he couldn't refuse. 2 on, and the infield drawn in. Result, 2 more runs, 5 RBIs in all for the Canseco kid. Time now for our Player of the Week in the American League. Robin Yount of the Milwaukee Brewers has been rocking and rolling since opening day. Against the Yankees, he hit his first home run while going 5 for 11 in 3 games. Either by long ball or by short ball, Yount has been immense. In 6 games overall, a .520 average and 3 extra base hits for Rockin' Robin. Well, fans, that's just about all the time we have for today, but the season's in full swing now, and we look forward to seeing you again next week, right here on the Pennant Chase.